Today we're going to talk about how AI can create beautiful pictures of a salmon swimming in the river. Or create pictures of a clock showing 6 p.m. Or how AI is really great counting the number of R's in the word strawberry. Or maybe, just maybe, we come back down to earth and really talk what's possible today with AI. So there will be 3 sections today. What is AI? What AI can do for healthcare? And what could go wrong? So let's start with what is AI. This is AI. Terminator is a perfect example of artificial intelligence. Because artificial intelligence is machine's ability to perform the cognitive functions we associate with humans. A Terminator is a perfect example of that. And to keep in mind what these cognitive functions are, let's go through that with Terminator. So for one, it's visual perception, the ability to see how humans see. Then there is the audio perception, ability to hear how we hear. Problem solving. So this is small problems, bigger problems, tactical, strategic. Then we have fine motor skills. So the ability to cut somebody's hair or to perform surgery. Navigation, moving from A to B. Natural language processing, so the ability to understand human language, which is not that easy. When we talk, many things are unsaid. There is a lot of context in our discussions, which the machines need to learn. Then we have social and emotional engagement. So being able to understand emotions or hear emotions and being empathic. So even humans are not really good at that, especially men. Or creativity, being able to create something novel in science, arts, business. All these 8 cognitive functions is what we usually use to identify if a machine is artificially intelligent. Now, Terminator is a great example of an AI we do not have today, artificial general intelligence. This is the form of AI that the tech bros are striving for. And depending on who you ask, you will get there next year, in 10 years, maybe in 100 years. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, the company that makes ChatGPT, said, we're going to get to AGI next year. Although he kept saying that, he has been saying that for the past 5 years. It's always next year. When we get there, I don't know, but we do have 3 forms of AI today that can be used and are being used today by companies. Machine learning, deep learning, and generative AI. I'll go a little bit into each of them to give you some idea what these are. So machine learning. It's a form of AI that has been around for about 30 years. Who of you is using a smartphone to text? Who is using Google Maps or Apple Maps to go from A to B? Who shops on Amazon? Well, we have many experts on AI here. These are the 3 examples of machine learning and AI forms that have been around for 20, 30 years. So Amazon's product recommendations is machine learning. Similar recommendations from Netflix, Spotify. Google Maps, Apple Maps, using machine learning to help us to get from A to B. And autocomplete, when you text in SMS, WhatsApp, whatever tool you use, autocomplete is also a form of machine learning. Any AI form, though, has its limitations. Machine learning, and specifically autocomplete, provides recommendations what's the possible next word you're trying to write. So if you write, I love, the next word may be you, or it may be pizza. So be careful as the human in the loop. Ensure that when you text with your loved one, you don't send too many times, I love pizza. Unless, of course, you're planning dinner. So that's machine learning. Deep learning is more advanced form of machine learning, which can process more data with more processing power. It even tries to mimic how the human brain operates. And deep learning has been around for 15 years. A great example is anything that requires complex processing of these cognitive human functions, like robotics. With robotics, there is the cognitive function of navigation. There is the cognitive functions of problem solving, visual perception, audio perception as well. Another example of deep learning is autonomous driving. There are even more cognitive functions to be addressed at once. Navigation, problem solving, visual perception, natural language processing when a human interacts with the machine. And like any AI, it has its own limitations. Do you know what that is? Anybody? Very good, stop sign. Do you know what that is? Still a stop sign with a black stick on it. Humans see that as a stop sign. Machines, not always. Actually, some self-driving cars were tricked to not see this as a stop sign, simply because of this black sticker. That particular issue has been solved, but this is an example of how machines have their limitations. A human would probably recognize that stop sign if it were broken in half. Let me get to the form of AI that probably, I would guess, everybody in this room knows, maybe even tried, generative AI. This has been available in the form we have today for about 3 years when ChatGPT came out 3 years ago. And generative AI is mostly known under its different tools to generate content. So there are tools to create text, there are tools to create images, tools to create audio, tools to create video. Generative AI is still kind of looking for its really big use case. There are a few use cases I'll go into in a second where generative AI adds value, but it's today limited. And speaking of limitations, coming back to the pictures from before, there is nothing wrong really with this picture. This is not an AI limitation. This is a user error. AI, ChatGPT, and all the other chatbots are trained on historic data, content, pictures that have been created by humans. And it has been trained on pictures of a salmon, including salmon fillet. So if the user specifies create a picture of a salmon swimming in a river, the machine creates an output based on the probability what the question may have been. So the chatbot doesn't know whether the user wanted a salmon fillet or a live fish. And in this case, the output was salmon fillet. So the user needs to be more clear what the machine should generate. This is where prompting is a critical component of understanding how to engage with the machine like this. And this afternoon, there will be a prompting session, as I saw on the agenda. The other two pictures are Gen AI limitations. So, pictures of a clock showing 6 p.m. The machine doesn't understand the concept of time. Actually, all these chatbots don't understand any concepts. They deliver results based on a probability that an output is correct. And chatbots don't understand the concept of time, that there is on an analog clock, an hour hand, minute hand, and depending on the position, it shows specific time. Same, by the way, for counting. Generative AI has been created to generate content, not to count. So the output that this ChatGPT delivered for this question of number of R's in the word strawberry was based on a probability that the number is, in this case, 2, not 3. So there are limitations all these tools have, and that's why yesterday was also mentioned the term the human in the loop. Yeah, in order to successfully use AI, you need to have the human in the loop. So the 3 forms of AI available today are machine learning, deep learning, and generative AI. And you may ask yourself now, okay, we can create pictures, we can navigate, we can use self-driving cars, but from a business perspective, what's in it for me? What's in it for me from using these AI in a business setting? And it's a great question, because that's where the question always needs to start. What's the business problem that we want to address? Not what this new technology is, new GPT version. What's the business problem that AI could address? So with a what's in it for me, I'll try to address that, give you a little bit more context behind these different forms of AI. And I break it down between analytical AI and generative AI. Analytical AI is just a grouping of machine learning, deep learning, because they have same characteristics, have been around for the same amount of time, roughly. And the first question, from a business perspective, what's the business value I can gain from the different forms of AI? So analytical AI delivers forecasting, segmentations, predictions, pattern detections, while generative AI is about generating stuff, so content creation, particular text analysis, and also chatbots. And I've listed here for generative AI only those use cases where it's safe to use in a business setting with a low risk. There are many other use cases for generative AI that have a high risk of damaging the brand reputation of a company, creating financial risk due to penalties, and impacting customer perception of your company. So there are a few cases listed here which have a low risk of these things happening. Another important factor is which data is used. Analytical AI is using mostly company private data and extracting insight out of that to help drive business decisions, whereas generative AI is mostly using public data. And keep in mind, public data means all these chatbots are trained on the internet. All these chatbots basically are the same. There is no competitive advantage using one versus the other. And of course, everybody has access to that data, to these chatbots. So there is no competitive advantage for companies to leverage generative AI off-the-shelf tools. The competitive advantage lies leveraging the data you have in-house through analytical AI, but also like was mentioned yesterday, leveraging the technology beyond generative AI to apply to company private data, helps you extract insight from that as well. Another thing to keep in mind, who develops these tools or solutions. Analytical AI is developed by in-house data experts, data scientists, machine learning engineers, data engineers, while generative AI is also developed by these experts who work at the few tech companies like OpenAI. And sometimes companies bring consultants to develop these machine learning solutions or deep learning solutions, but mostly it's based on, developed by internal people, data experts in the organization. And I'm mentioning all this because of the following. What's the business value, financial value that these forms of AI deliver? This is now based on McKinsey. Analytical AI delivers annually, globally, an economic value between 11 and 18 trillion US dollars. Generative AI between 3 and 4 trillion US dollars. So the analytical AI, machine learning, deep learning deliver 4 times the business value that generative AI could deliver. To put it differently, out of all the value that AI can deliver for businesses, on average, 80% comes from machine learning, deep learning, so analytical AI, 20% from generative AI. That's the true value. Now, would you like to guess what the perceived value is? Flip? Yeah, exactly. It's basically the opposite. And why is that? The hype, the investments done by the few tech companies in generative AI, the VCs that want to get a return, they're pushing, spending lots of money on marketing and propaganda and on creating FOMO, fear of missing out, so that companies believe, oh, we need to have this latest GPT, but the true value actually lies in analytical AI. So, speaking of hype, AI agents. Have you heard about AI agents? Who has heard about AI agents or agentic AI? Oh, good. Yeah, true experts. It sometimes comes across that AI agents is a new form of AI, which is not. AI agents are simply process automation that's leveraging either machine learning, deep learning, or generative AI. Sometimes they are very simple process automation systems with a pinch of AI thrown in. But the tech bros need another hype because the hype of Gen AI was dying, and they started, agentic AI hype kind of emerged, if you look at Google Trends, in January of this year. So, machine learning, deep learning, and generative AI, these are the forms of AI available today. Did I somehow disconnect here? Can you hear me? Yeah, all right. Before I continue to what AI can do for healthcare, I wonder if you have any questions I can answer right now. We will have quite time at the end as well, but just in case, any questions today, right now?
Is there any research that shows what the value of combining them is, right? Like using the machine learning and deep learning to do deep analytics, forecasting, segmentation, and then generative AI to explain the results in a way that is easily understood and that you can act on. And I feel like that's kind of what I'm thinking about.
That's a great question. And so I'm, in addition to Keynotes, I'm also an advisor with a more technical side, working with companies that combine basically what you mentioned, leveraging, for example, large language models to help business users to communicate with BI, so business intelligence tools. Not even AI, but the communication, helping to better understand insights in the data. So, but in terms of combining the value, you basically add these two up. So McKinsey identified the use cases machine learning and deep learning deliver, and they identify the use cases that generative AI can deliver, including the large language models, communication between the business user and then AI system. So combining them gives you the total value. Any other question?
Sorry. So how do businesses get a more competitive advantage for generative AI? Like, is it just the prompt? Is it just the, like, just help me?
So competitive advantage, when I say competitive advantage, I mean advantage across one business versus the other, you versus your competitor. You both have access to the same tools. You both can use these tools which are trained on the same data. So the competitive advantage may be initially if you're using that and using generative AI to synthesize text or create images or create maybe training videos. The competitive advantage you have initially when you start with that is just driven by time until your competitor does the same. Otherwise, the competitive advantage is what we just talked and what Authentics is doing, leveraging large language models to basically help to communicate for business users to communicate with a data system or text system. Yeah?
So to that end, would you take what Authentics does, and two questions. One is, would you take what Authentics does and push that more towards the analytic AI versus the generative AI? To the extent that it's more analytic, we get a copy of your 80/20 slide, and you go to ask for budget.
Okay. No, but you can hire me. I can come as a consultant. So this 80/20 slide, that's based on a general analysis from McKinsey. They actually done that's broken down by industry even. So you can get that information, but it's a general idea direction. In terms of Authentics, so what I've seen, and please correct me, large language models are used to basically try to extract data, synthesize data for text. So this is a great use case for generative AI, analyzing and condensing text. So that's large language models, that generative AI. Now, leveraging that, analyzing that, it's more in the domain of machine learning or deep learning.
We would say that we're a combination. We use machine learning and deep learning, and then our generative AI can synthesize and explain what the machine learning and deep learning models detect with both.
Okay, one more question before I continue. Again, it will be time at the end. If there's any. No. All right, let's go to the next part. What can AI do for healthcare? As you've seen from machine learning, deep learning, these forms of AI have been around for 20, 30 years. And that's why companies that are innovative have been using these forms of AI across all the business functions. Now, today I'll focus on the commercial side, so basically marketing, sales, particular for healthcare. And this can be grouped into 4 categories. Insights about HCPs and patients, recommendations for sales reps, optimizing resources, and creating content. Over the next 10 minutes or so, I'll give you first 9 questions that AI can address at a high level and go deeper into 4 use cases that I have developed with my team at a pharma company. So first question that AI can answer is, who are our most important HCPs and what are their channel content preferences? So this is basically the first thing a business should do, understanding its customers. And AI can help to identify that and then create customer segments out of that. AI can then answer also a question of which HCPs are at risk of switching to a competitor, and provides drivers of that potential risk. AI also can address the question which patients are at risk of stopping therapy. So the non-adherence risk can be analyzed. Recommendations for sales reps are about which physicians should be addressed this week through which channels and with which content, helping sales reps to be more productive. Another one is, with sufficient data, you can analyze which competitors are more present at specific location, particularly at the clinic or a hospital. So the sales reps have then additional information how to approach those particular customers. For resource optimization, this is identifying how the company can optimize its marketing spend. Similarly, you can optimize the location distribution of sales reps across a geography. When it comes to content creation, many companies, all companies, do training videos, compliance videos. You can use AI to quickly create that in multiple languages, relevant for global company. And you can use AI to customize your marketing content. So if you address the first question about understanding your customers and creating your segments, you can take a marketing content and have AI customize that for each individual segment. This is not about only Dear John. This is really modifying the entire text, content, including pictures that are more aligned with each customer segment. So these are 9 questions. This is not a complete set of what AI can do in commercial side of healthcare. These are just few top examples. And I'll go now into 4 to go a little bit deeper. First, HCP insights. So this is the question, who are our most important HCPs? And what are their behaviors and attitudes? And when I was at the pharma company, we faced a challenge. We had hundreds of thousands of HCPs to address, and each HCP is different. They have different digital affinities, they have different channel preferences, they have different brand preferences, they have different attitudes towards new products. And some are more influential than others, some publish a lot and therefore influence their colleagues. So we wanted to address that by leveraging AI to identify customer profiles and customer segments. So we leverage internal data, which was based on communication with those physicians to identify the channel preferences. We leverage what physicians publish on PubMed. We scraped physician websites to identify which products, which brands, or which indications they talk about. So all that combined led to these profiles and segments. And the benefit? Well, for one, better customer satisfaction, because instead of sending communication through all the potential channels, we focus for each physician on the channel preferences he or she has. And lower marketing expenses, because if you're introducing a new medication, you don't want to waste your marketing money on sending this to a physician who is not early adopter. So that's one solutions we developed. Next one, for recommendations for sales reps. This is answering the question, which physician should be addressed this week, through which channels and with which content. And the challenge for us was that one sales rep is responsible for hundreds of physicians. And that responsibility changes sometimes based on new customer segments, based on restructuring in the organization. So often the sales reps facing physicians who she or he has not engaged with before. And the AI solution to that is a recommender system, also called next best action. This is basically the same approach that Amazon is using to provide product recommendations to us. So looking at physician and analyzing what she or he has engaged with before, most likely this new content may be relevant for that physician. Or looking at what similar physicians have done before and recommending that same content to the new physician. And the benefit of that is, for one, improve customer satisfaction again, because in terms of content, we provide only the content that most likely the physician is interested in. And keep in mind, like every AI, it has its limitations. So it's most likely that the physician lacks this content. Maybe not always accurate, but that's what AI is. It's a probability of something happening. And sales reps' productivity is the benefit, of course, because sales reps can focus on those physicians who are most likely interested in engaging this week. And by the way, next best action is an approach that has been used in other industries for decades. When it comes to resource optimization, the solution can address the question, what is the optimal marketing mix? And that problem we faced, and actually every company facing, for established products, marketing and advertising investments impact only a small portion of revenues. If you stop your marketing sales activities today, you will, 12 months down the road, you will still have around 80, maybe not even 90% of the existing revenues, everything else being equal. So it's important to understand how to use these resources, how to optimize the use of these marketing and advertising resources, and how to also run effective marketing campaigns, which differ, the effectiveness differs across products and customers. And the solution for that, AI solution for that, is promotion response modeling, also known as marketing mix optimization. It can identify the most effective channels, and at the end, you can reduce your marketing and advertising expenses and keeping the same revenues, or you can increase revenues while keeping the same marketing and advertising expenses. The last deep dive here is for content creation. To address the question, how can you optimally create training videos or compliance videos? So every company has compliance videos, for example, used internally that need to be updated every year with small changes, either wording change or number changes, and it's costly to rerun that. And if you're a global company and need to create the content in many languages, that's additional cost per language. So this is where AI comes in, and this is generative AI, where you can use AI avatars to create training videos, either for internal use or even for external use. The benefit of that, it's very flexible and costs significantly less than doing this the traditional way. So, 9 examples of what's possible with AI. Again, not complete list. And if you wonder Yeah, kind of, I already alluded to that, but you probably have guessed. The first three categories are addressed through machine learning and deep learning, so analytical AI. And the last category, as the name implies, is generative AI. Now, I would move in a second to the last section, but before I do that, are there any questions on these topics, on these use cases? All right. So the next part, what could go wrong? I'm going to start with something you've seen yesterday with slightly different number. Because the bad news is that 70% of AI projects fail. And the 70% comes from a mix of three research papers from Gartner, Deloitte, MIT, Boston Consulting Group. They come to different results, 85%, 60%, 64%. So on average, 70% of AI projects fail. And why is that? To address that, I need to share with you a revelation. Yes, a revelation I had 15 years ago. It's April 2010, Tuesday afternoon, and I'm sitting with my colleague in this cold, large conference room. And we're waiting for the marketing director to explain to him what we develop. We develop an AI solution that can optimize marketing expenses, promotion response modeling, what I just was talking about. And I'm, at that point in time, leading the AI projects at a large tech company. We spent months developing this, some weekends as well. Now we are really excited to share this with the marketing director. He comes in, sits down, and we get into which data we have used, which technology we have used, which algorithms were part of the solution. We are so excited. We finish sitting down and expect the marketing director to be as excited as we are. But his response, what should I do with this AI? How should I know that this black box delivers anything useful? And then I need to change how I make investment decisions. We didn't expect that. We didn't expect that a marketing director at a large tech companies will not act rationally. He responded very emotionally to potential changes in his organization. And we focus on data, technology, algorithms. We even created this very simple dashboard. The project was killed. Our baby was dead. It took us some time to recover. 2 weeks later, I set up a meeting with my team, and we're discussing what did go wrong. We're sitting there talking for 1 hour. We don't have any ideas. $1 million savings was supposed to come out of that tool, that system. And then Peter says, well, I play tennis with Alex for marketing every Wednesday. And last week, he asked me, will AI replace me? And then our data engineer said, well, I heard 2 ladies from marketing talking about AI, and the one was saying, AI is so complex, I don't have any clue what value it brings for us. This was the revelation. This is not about technology, not about data. It's about people. It's about their questions, their fears, their uncertainties. How should employees understand the value of AI if you don't explain to them what it is? If you don't share with them what positive impact that will bring for them if you do not answer for them the question, what's in it for me? There is another aspect of why AI projects fail, which is the company culture. You may have seen this quote, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast," which means that any system, any process, any technology you implement in the organization will be only as successful as the company culture allows. Is your company culture such that new systems, processes are embraced right away? Is your company culture such that employees are encouraged to come up with new ideas? Is your company culture such that mistakes that sometimes happen when you introduce new systems are not punished but used as a learning opportunity? The answers to these questions will determine how successful AI will be in the organization. That's why I call this also culture, it's AI for breakfast. Now, some people who, when I mention this, they say, well, AI is like an IT implementation. We've done IT implementations, we run some change management program, it was fine. It will be the same with AI. So yes, it's true that for big IT systems, you need change management. But there is one key difference between IT and AI implementation. When you implement AI, when you implement new IT system, employees have to use the new system. They do not have a choice. If you change to a new CRM system, if you change from Microsoft to Google environment, or the other way around, that's given and there is no going back. Employees need to use it. With AI, it's different. AI is mainly, when it's done successfully, about augmentation, about support, about providing support and like Copilot, for example, to employees. But employees have a choice. They don't have to use it. They have a choice whether I use it or not. AI in companies is like a gym membership. It's paid for, but whether you use it or not is up to you. I have learned from the mistakes from a revelation 15 years ago. In my last role as a head of data science at a pharma company, we have implemented an AI solution, next best action, I was talking about before. To succeed this time, I've done 3 things. First, I brought in 2 sales reps into the development team. They were working with data scientists, data engineers, machine learning engineers to develop the solution. And those data experts understood what sales reps need. Second, we have created a marketing campaign for next best action. So basically, a marketing plan, how to market this AI solution internally to the sales reps. And third, we started a data and AI literacy program to improve the data and AI mindset in the organization, to help everybody understand the value of AI and help people understand how AI helps them in a daily decision. This is, by the way, why I wrote a short book, a guide, not as good as Sally's, but it's just 40 pages. You can take a look outside, and I have 10 free copies to give away today. So if you do this, if you involve users, if you market AI to your internal audience, and if you improve data and AI literacy, you can be successful like we were. And what we did, we basically brought everybody along. We answered for them the question, what's in it for me? The employees, the sales rep said, that's what I can use AI for. That's what's in it for me. And all of a sudden, AI was not a threat anymore. AI was simply a colleague who never takes vacation and doesn't complain about lunch. People. People is the biggest success factor of AI in the organization. I call it also the human factor of AI. And I highly recommend that you keep that in mind when you implement AI solutions. Now, if you do, you can be part of the 30% where AI projects succeed. To wrap this up, to bring this all together, and I hope, if nothing else, you take 3 things with you today. First, AI is more than ChatGPT. You have seen what AI can do for healthcare in a commercial setting. Second, the time for AI is now. Do not wait for this magic AGI to appear. And finally, and from my point of view, this is the biggest takeaway, bring people along and answer for them the question, what's in it for me? Thank you.